This video will cover the review and reflect for the topic of inverse functions. For this review, we are asked to solve for y in two different equations, as well as to use composition of functions to find f of g of x, which can be found on page 76 of your notebook. You may want to pause the video here so that you may attempt to answer the questions on your own. For solving for y, for number 1, part A, we need to get rid of the plus 5. So I'm going to subtract 5 to both sides. That will give me x minus 5 is equal to 2y. Then I'm going to divide both sides by 2. And this will give me y on this side. And on the other side it will give me x minus 5 over 2. Because this is a line, we might see this better as 1/2 x minus 5 over 2. Remember, we can separate the fraction by doing it as x over 2 minus 5 over 2. And that x over 2 is the same thing as 1/2 x. Solving for y and problem B, I need to get rid of this plus 2, so I'm going to subtract 2 to both sides. When I do that, I have x minus 2 is equal to y squared. Using the dub property, I'm going to write this as y squared is equal to x minus 2. We learned that if we have an exponent of 2, we can take the square root of both sides. And don't forget to use plus or minus. This is the square root property. So in that case, we will have y on this side, and over here we will have plus or minus the square root of x minus 2. For the third part, our job is to find f of g of x. To remind you, you can go to page 76 to see your notes there. But essentially, we're going to get our x value, and we're going to plug it into our g box. And then whatever comes out, we're going to plug it into our f box. And whatever comes out is going to be our answer. Remember, it's going to be x goes into g, whatever we get goes into f. And our g box is the square root of x, so I'm going to put parentheses where I say the x. The f is x squared plus 1. So now we're ready to input our x. We're going to put our x, we're going to put it inside here, and I end up with just the square root of x. That's what came out. I'm going to put the square root of x into here, and then when I square it, remember the square root and the square will cancel each other out, and I'll just have an x, and then I still have the plus 1. So this will be our answer for f of g of x. Now let's turn our attention to the reflect of the page. After the lecture videos, you should be able to find the inverse of functions if I give you points, or if I give you a graph, or if I give you an equation. And that concludes this video.